I didn't think he'd take it seriously. That's what I need everyone to understand before we get into what happened. It was a comment made in frustration, a throwaway line during an argument, an exaggeration meant to make a point, not a literal comparison. I didn't actually believe our dog was smarter than him. I was just trying to illustrate how emotionally unavailable he was being, how disconnected, how frustrating it was to try to have real conversations with someone who responded to emotions like a robot processing data. Our dog, Bailey, a 4-year-old golden retriever, has always been intuitive. Anyone who's spent time with her knows this. She can read a room better than most people, can sense when someone's upset or anxious or happy, comes to comfort when you're sad, celebrates with you when you're excited, stays close when you're nervous. It's that emotional intelligence that dogs have, that pure, uncomplicated ability to read and respond to human emotions without all the complicated human baggage getting in the way. I said it during a fight. One of those circular arguments we'd been having for months, where I'm trying to get him to open up, and he's deflecting with logic, and I'm getting increasingly frustrated, and he's getting increasingly distant. I was trying to explain how his emotional unavailability made me feel, and he was explaining why my feelings were based on misinterpretation of his actions, and I just snapped. You know what? Bailey has better emotional intelligence than you do. Our dog is literally smarter than you emotionally. At least she responds when someone's hurting. At least she shows up. At least she's present. I expected him to argue, to defend himself, to get upset, to prove me wrong by showing emotion finally, to do anything except what he actually did. He just looked at me for a long moment. That same calm, measured look he always has. That expression that I can never read, and that drives me crazy because I can't tell what he's thinking or feeling or processing. And then he said, very quietly, very deliberately, "Okay, let's test that." Before we get into it, don't forget to like and subscribe, and hit hype to boost this episode. Drop a comment below with your city or country. I'm always curious where viewers are joining from. I laughed when he said it. Nervous laughter because I didn't know what he meant, but I knew it wasn't good. Knew that calm tone meant he was planning something. Knew that when he gets that measured, that controlled, that deliberate, something significant is about to happen. Test what? How smart our dog is. She's a dog. She's smart for a dog. I was making a point about emotional availability, not literally comparing you to an animal. You said Bailey has better emotional intelligence than I do. You said she's smarter than me emotionally. Those were your exact words. So let's test it. Let's see if you're right. That's ridiculous. How do you test emotional intelligence in a dog? We let her choose. The words hung in the air, simple, clear, terrifying in their implications, even though I didn't fully understand yet what he was proposing. Choose what? Who to stay with? Who has better emotional intelligence? Who she trusts more? Who she feels safer with? If she's as emotionally smart as you say, smarter than me even, then she should be able to identify who's the better emotional presence. Dogs are good at that, reading people, sensing who's safe, who's kind, who's trustworthy. So we let her choose. My stomach dropped, not because I thought he was serious, not because I believed he'd actually do this, but because the calm way he said it, the complete lack of emotion, the clinical detachment, meant he'd already thought this through, already decided, already committed to whatever point he was about to make. You're being dramatic. This is you avoiding the real conversation, which is about how you shut down emotionally whenever I try to connect. I'm not avoiding anything. I'm proposing we test your hypothesis. You made a claim that Bailey has better emotional intelligence than I do. That's testable. That's observable. So let's observe. Let's see if you're right. I don't want to test it. I want you to acknowledge that you're emotionally distant, and work on being more present in our relationship. And I want you to acknowledge that maybe your perception of my emotional intelligence is inaccurate. Maybe what you interpret as emotional unavailability is actually emotional stability. Maybe what you see as shutdown is actually calm. Maybe you're wrong. So let's find out. Let's let Bailey decide. He was serious, completely serious, and I was trapped, because saying no would mean admitting I didn't actually believe what I said, would mean admitting I was just being cruel, would mean backing down from my position, and I couldn't do that without losing the argument entirely. Fine, whatever. Do your weird dog experiment, but this doesn't change the fact that you need to work on your emotional availability. We'll see, he said, and something in his tone made me deeply uncomfortable. He set it up the next morning. Saturday. We both had the day off. Bailey was excited because she could sense something different was happening. Dogs know when the routine changes, when energy in the house shifts, when their humans are focused on them in unusual ways. He explained the experiment like he was presenting a science project. Calm, methodical, thorough. It's simple. We're going to spend the day doing separate activities with Bailey. Not together, separately. You take her for a few hours. Do whatever you normally do with her. Then I take her for a few hours. Do what I normally do with her. Then tonight we let her choose. We stand at opposite ends of the house and call her. Whoever she goes to, that's who she's choosing. That's who she trusts more. That's who she perceives as the better emotional presence. That's not a valid test of emotional intelligence. That's just testing who she likes more, or who gives her more treats, or who she's more familiar with. Emotional intelligence includes being liked, includes building trust, includes creating positive associations. If she chooses me, it means I've built a better emotional connection, despite my supposed emotional unavailability. If she chooses you, you're right and I'll acknowledge it. And if she chooses you, then maybe you consider that your assessment of my emotional intelligence is wrong, that maybe I'm more emotionally present than you think, that maybe your constant criticism of my emotional capacity is unfair. He wasn't angry, wasn't defensive, just stating terms, just proposing an experiment with clear parameters and consequences, just offering to prove or disprove my claim using observable behavior. I should have said no, should have recognized this was a trap, should have seen that he was more confident than he should be if he really thought I was right. Should have noticed that he was setting this up like someone who already knows the outcome. But I didn't. I was too proud, too sure of myself, too convinced that I was right and he was wrong, too confident that Bailey would obviously choose me because I'm the one who's emotionally warm and present while he's cold and distant. Fine, let's do it. Oye says and do e and digu and sao. I took Bailey first, spent the morning with her doing all the things I thought would demonstrate my superior emotional connection. I cuddled with her on the couch, told her she was a good girl, gave her treats, lots of treats, her favorite ones, the expensive ones. Let her lick my face, even though I normally don't like that. Pet her enthusiastically, talked to her in that high-pitched voice people use with dogs, played with her favorite toys, threw the ball, played tug, made everything exciting and energetic and fun. I took her for a walk, let her sniff everything, didn't rush her, let her stop and smell every tree and bush and interesting spot, took photos of her, posted them on social media with captions about how much I love her, made the walk about her enjoyment rather than exercise. I fed her lunch, added some chicken to her regular food, made it special, sat with her while she ate, talked to her about how good the food was, made eating an interactive experience. I was being the fun parent, the permissive parent, the one who gives treats and allows things and makes everything about immediate pleasure and happiness. I was showing her love through indulgence and enthusiasm and constant attention, and Bailey seemed happy, wagging tail, excited energy, clearly enjoying the attention and treats and playtime, clearly having a good time, clearly responding positively to my approach. I felt confident, felt sure, felt like I was building connection and demonstrating emotional intelligence through warmth and attention and affection. Felt like when the choice came tonight, Bailey would obviously come to me because I was giving her everything a dog could want. Then it was his turn, and I watched, because I was curious and wanted to see what he'd do, and what I saw made me uncomfortable in ways I couldn't quite articulate. Data frysal, handisi, hanekronal saiet, and he didn't do any of the things I did. Didn't shower Bailey with treats or toys or enthusiasm. Didn't make everything about fun and excitement. Did something completely different. Something that should have warned me I'd miscalculated. He took Bailey outside to the backyard, sat down on the grass, just sat. Bailey came over to investigate. He pet her calmly, slowly, no excited energy, just steady, peaceful contact. Then he just existed with her. Sat in silence while Bailey explored the yard, called her occasionally. She'd come back, he'd pet her, she'd go explore more, he'd watch her, calm, present, peaceful. They did this for an hour, just existing together. No treats, no toys, no games, just companionship, just being. Bailey would periodically come check on him, touch his hand with her nose, get a calm pet, go back to exploring, return again, get acknowledged again. A rhythm, a pattern, a connection built on presence rather than entertainment. Then he took her for a walk, different from my walk. He set a pace, consistent, steady. When Bailey pulled ahead, he'd stop and wait, patient, not frustrated, not yanking the leash, just stopping until she realized and came back to his side. Then they'd continue. When she wanted to sniff something, he'd let her, for a moment. Then he'd call her gently, "Come on, Bailey, let's go." And she'd follow. Not because he was forcing her, because he was leading her, because she trusted his direction. The walk had structure, had leadership, had clear communication about boundaries and expectations. But it wasn't harsh, wasn't punishing, just clear, just consistent. Just him being a calm, reliable presence that Bailey could depend on to make decisions and set direction. He fed her dinner, regular food, no special additions, but he made her wait, sit, stay, be calm before eating, not as punishment, as practice, as routine, as reinforcement of the structure they apparently have that I've never noticed. She waited, patiently. Then he released her. "Okay, eat." And she ate, calmly, not frantically like when I feed her. After dinner, they sat together on the couch. He didn't talk to her much, didn't use baby voice or excited energy, just had his hand on her head, slowly petting. She was completely relaxed, not excited, not energetic, just peaceful, content, settled, like she didn't need entertainment or treats or excitement to be happy, like his calm presence was enough. And watching this, watching their quiet, steady, structured interaction, made me realize something uncomfortable, made me see something I'd been missing, made me understand that maybe I'd confused emotional intelligence with emotional enthusiasm, that maybe what I called emotional unavailability in him was actually emotional stability, that maybe Bailey's emotional intelligence was about to reveal something I didn't want to see. Or cat do. The evening, we set up the test. The actual choice. The moment that would supposedly prove who was right about emotional intelligence. We stood at opposite ends of the living room, him at one end, me at the other. About 30 feet between us. Bailey in the middle, looking at both of us, waiting to see what was happening. The rules were simple. We'd both call her. Once. Just call her name. Whoever she went to first, that was the choice. That was the verdict. That was Bailey's assessment of who had better emotional intelligence, who she trusted more, who she wanted to be with. "Ready?" he asked. "Yes, though this is still ridiculous. We both love her. She loves both of us. This doesn't prove anything about emotional intelligence. It proves who she trusts more, who she feels safer with, who she perceives as the better emotional presence. That's relevant. Fine, let's just do this." We called her simultaneously. Both said, "Bailey, come," at the same time. Clear, simple, equal invitation. And Bailey looked at both of us, ears up, tail wagging slightly, processing, deciding, making the choice we'd set up for her to make. I expected her to come to me immediately, expected all those treats and toys and enthusiasm and cuddles to have created a clear preference, expected my warmth and affection to have built the stronger connection. Bailey took one step toward me. My heart lifted. See? I was right. She's choosing me. She's validating that I'm the emotionally intelligent one. Then she stopped, looked at him, looked back at me, hesitated, and then she turned, walked straight to him, not to me, to him. Without hesitation, once she'd made her decision, walked right up to him and sat down next to him, leaned against his leg, looked up at him with that contented dog expression, chose him, definitively, clearly, unambiguously. My stomach dropped, my face got hot, my throat got tight. This wasn't supposed to happen. This wasn't the outcome I'd prepared for. This wasn't the validation I expected. That's not fair. You've been training her to respond to you. You've conditioned her. This isn't about emotional intelligence. It's about obedience training. He pet Bailey calmly, didn't gloat, didn't smile triumphantly, just acknowledged her choice with the same calm presence he'd shown all day. I haven't conditioned her to choose me over you. I've built a relationship with her based on trust, consistency, and calm leadership. You built a relationship based on treats, excitement, and permissiveness. She chose trust over treats, chose stability over excitement, chose the calm, reliable presence over the fun, inconsistent one. That's not. You confused emotional intelligence with emotional intensity. You thought being emotionally intelligent meant being emotionally expressive, enthusiastic, demonstrative. You thought my calm meant I lacked emotional depth. You thought your expressiveness meant you had emotional intelligence. But Bailey just showed you which approach she trusts more, which emotional presence she feels safer with. And it's not yours. The words hit like physical blows. Because he was right. Bailey had chosen, had made a clear, unambiguous choice between us, had picked him over me despite all my treats, and attention, and enthusiasm, had selected his calm, stable presence over my energetic, emotional approach. This is one choice, one test. It doesn't mean anything. Then we tested again, different setup, same principle. Let's see if the result changes. Over the next week, he kept setting up choices, different scenarios, different circumstances, different setups, all designed to test the same thing: who Bailey trusted more, who she felt safer with, who she'd choose when given the option. Each choice revealing more about what I'd been refusing to see. Each selection demonstrating something I didn't want to accept. Choice 2. We both sat on opposite couches, one evening after dinner. Living room set up. Him on one couch, me on the other. Called Bailey simultaneously to come cuddle. Both patted the cushion next to us. Both used encouraging voices. Both invited her to come sit with us. She looked at both options, walked toward my couch. My heart lifted again. See, she does love me. Then veered at the last second. Went to his couch instead. Settled next to him. Curled up with her head on his lap. Chose his presence over mine even when we were offering the exact same thing. Cuddle time on the couch. Chose his calm energy over my enthusiasm yet again. Choice 3. Morning walk time. We both grabbed leashes, stood in different parts of the house. Both held up leashes simultaneously. Both said, "Want to go for a walk," in that excited voice that usually makes Bailey go crazy. She loves walks, lives for walks, gets excited just at the sound of the leash. But instead of just being excited and running to whoever was closest, she made a choice. Looked at both of us, looked at both leashes, then walked deliberately to him, sat at his feet, waited for him to put on her leash, chose him to be her walk leader, chose his structured, purposeful walks over my permissive, wandering ones. Another validation that she trusted his leadership more than my freedom. Choice 4. Thursday evening. Thunderstorm. Bailey hates thunder, gets scared and anxious and shaky. We both knew a storm was coming, could see it on the weather app, could hear it approaching. She was already getting nervous, pacing, whining slightly. We positioned ourselves in different rooms. Both tried to comfort her from our separate locations. I was in the living room being sympathetic. "It's okay, baby. Don't be scared. Come here, I'll protect you. It's just noise. Nothing to worry about." Using my emotional, reassuring voice, offering treats to distract her, trying to soothe her anxiety with enthusiasm and affection and rewards. He was in the bedroom being calm, just sitting on the bed, not calling her frantically, not using that high-pitched, reassuring voice, just being present, being steady, being the calm in her storm. And when the thunder hit, really hit, that loud crack that makes even humans jump, she ran to find safety, had both options available, ran past me, literally ran past me in the living room where I was offering treats and sympathy, and went to him, burst into the bedroom, jumped on the bed, buried her face in his lap, sought his calm presence over my enthusiastic reassurance, chose stability over sympathy, chose grounding over understanding, chose someone who wouldn't amplify her anxiety with matching emotional energy. He just pet her slowly, steadily, didn't make a big deal out of her fear, didn't baby her, didn't reinforce the anxiety, just was calm, was steady, was the rock she needed, and she stayed there the entire storm. Never came back to check on me, never sought my comfort, just stayed with him, breathing slowly, calming down, trusting his energy to regulate hers. Choice 5, Friday morning. Mealtime. We both prepared food bowls, both filled them with her kibble at the same time in different parts of the kitchen. Both set them down simultaneously. Both called her to eat. "Bailey, food." Same words, same invitation, same offering. She should have just gone to whichever bowl was closer, should have just picked randomly, should have not had a preference since the food was identical. But she walked to his bowl, waited at his bowl even though mine was closer, sat patiently even though both bowls were available, waited for his signal to eat, wouldn't touch the food until he said, "Okay," even though my bowl was right there, even though she could have just eaten from whichever. She chose to wait for his permission, chose his structure over my availability, chose his leadership over my permissiveness. Demonstrated again that what she valued wasn't the food or the freedom, it was the relationship, the structure, the trust, the knowing someone was in charge and would tell her when it was appropriate to do things. Every single time, 5 times, 5 different scenarios, 5 different setups, she chose him. Every test, every opportunity to demonstrate preference, every chance to show who she trusted more. She consistently, repeatedly, definitively chose his presence over mine, chose his calm over my excitement, chose his structure over my freedom, chose his stability over my volatility, chose his predictability over my spontaneity, and every choice felt like a rejection, like Bailey was telling me something I didn't want to hear. Like our dog, who I'd used as evidence of his emotional inadequacy, who I'd held up as an example of what emotional intelligence looks like, was proving that, actually, he was the emotionally intelligent one and I was the one lacking. Every selection was a lesson. Every decision was feedback. Every choice was Bailey showing me what I refused to see. That emotional intelligence isn't about enthusiasm or expressiveness or intensity. It's about consistency, reliability, calm, trust. After the fifth choice, after watching our dog choose him over and over and over, despite all my treats and attention and love, I broke down. Actually broke down, started crying right there in the kitchen with both food bowls on the floor and Bailey eating calmly from his bowl under his supervision while completely ignoring mine. Not because of the dog, not really, because of what the dog was showing me, because of what I was being forced to see about myself and him and our entire relationship, because of the mirror being held up to my face repeatedly showing me that everything I believed was backwards, that my assessment of who was emotionally intelligent was completely wrong, that I'd been criticizing him for traits that were actually strengths while considering my flaws to be virtues. Why does she keep choosing you? I give her treats, I play with her, I show her affection. I'm the one who's emotionally available and warm and present. Why doesn't she want to be with me? He sat down next to me on the kitchen floor, didn't immediately try to comfort me, didn't rush to soothe my tears, didn't touch me or hug me or do any of the things I would have done if he were crying. Just sat close, present, calm, the same way he'd been with Bailey all week, the same steady presence he always is, the same energy I've been criticizing as emotionally unavailable, but that Bailey clearly finds deeply trustworthy. Because dogs, like humans, don't trust emotional intensity. They trust emotional stability. You're enthusiastic and affectionate and energetic with her, but it's inconsistent. Sometimes you're all over her with attention. Sometimes you ignore her because you're busy. Sometimes you're upset and she doesn't know why. Sometimes you're happy and she doesn't know what changed. She can't predict you, can't rely on you, can't trust that you'll be the same person from one moment to the next. And you? I'm consistent, every day, same routine, same calm energy, same responses. When she's anxious, I'm steady. When she's excited, I'm grounded. When she needs something, I'm predictable. She knows what to expect from me, knows I won't suddenly change moods, knows I'm reliable. That's what she trusts. That's what she chooses. Not because I'm more fun or give better treats, because I'm more stable. Every word was landing. Every observation was accurate. Every explanation was showing me something about myself I'd been refusing to see. You're saying I'm unstable. I'm saying you're emotionally volatile, not in a dramatic way, not in a dangerous way, but in an unpredictable way. Your emotions change quickly, your reactions are intense, your moods shift, and that's fine for you. That's how you process and experience and express. But it's not what builds trust, not with dogs, not with people. Bailey chooses me because she knows what she's getting. She knows I'll be the same calm presence whether things are good or bad. She doesn't know that with you. So I'm the problem. Is that what you're saying? I'm saying that what you called emotional unavailability in me is actually emotional consistency. What you called shutdown is actually self-regulation. What you called distance is actually boundaries. And Bailey recognizes that, chooses that, trusts that, because emotional intelligence isn't about how intensely you feel or how expressively you communicate. It's about how reliably you show up, how consistently you respond, how steadily you remain present regardless of circumstances. The final test came 2 weeks after the first choice, after Bailey had consistently chosen him over me in every scenario, after I'd been forced to watch our dog repeatedly select his presence over mine, after I'd been confronted with the uncomfortable reality that maybe I was wrong about everything. He proposed something different, something more significant, something with real consequences instead of just emotional ones. I'm going to stay with my brother for a while. Give us some space. Let things cool down. And I think Bailey should choose who she stays with. Not us choosing for her. Not us deciding what's best. Her actually choosing where she wants to be and who she wants to be with. You're leaving because of a dog choosing you in some tests? I'm leaving because you told me our dog has better emotional intelligence than I do. You told me I'm emotionally unavailable. You told me I need to work on being more present. And instead of working on something that isn't actually a problem, I'm choosing to be somewhere where my emotional presence is appreciated, where my calm is valued instead of criticized, where my consistency is recognized as strength instead of weakness. So Bailey gets to choose where she lives. That's insane. She's a dog. We both own her. We both take care of her. You can't just take her because she chose you in some arbitrary tests. I'm not taking her. I'm letting her choose. Tomorrow morning I'm packing my car. You're staying here in the house. I'm going to open the door. If Bailey gets in the car with me, she's choosing to come. If she stays in the house with you, she's choosing to stay. No treats, no calling, no coercing. Just opening the door and seeing what she does. Letting her emotional intelligence guide her decision about where she feels safer, who she trusts more, who she wants to be with. And if she chooses you, then she comes with me, and you have time here alone to think about whether maybe your assessment of my emotional intelligence was wrong, whether maybe what you interpreted as unavailability was actually stability, whether maybe you owe me an apology. And if she chooses me, then I leave alone, and I apologize for making this into a bigger issue than it needed to be. And I acknowledge that you were right. He was serious, completely serious, willing to let our dog make a decision about our relationship, willing to trust Bailey's emotional intelligence to determine who she'd rather be with, willing to lose her if she chose me, confident enough in the choice she'd make that he was proposing this. This is emotional manipulation. You're using our dog to punish me for criticizing you. I'm using our dog to demonstrate something you refuse to see, that maybe your perception of my emotional capacity is inaccurate, that maybe what you call unavailability is actually consistency, that maybe Bailey has been showing you all week who the actually emotionally intelligent person is, and you've been refusing to accept it. And the next morning came too quickly. I barely slept, spent the night alternating between anger at him for doing this, for making our dog into a test, for turning our relationship into an experiment, and fear that Bailey would actually choose to leave with him, that she'd validate everything he'd been saying, and confusion about what it meant if she did. Confusion about my entire understanding of emotional intelligence. Confusion about who I thought I was. Confusion about whether everything I believed was wrong. He packed his car while I watched from inside. Moved methodically through the house, collecting his things, clothes, toiletries, laptop, books, loading bags and boxes into his car with that same steady calm he always has. Like he was just going on a business trip. Like this wasn't the potential end of our relationship. Like this wasn't him leaving possibly permanently, possibly taking our dog with him, possibly ending everything we'd built together. Just loading bags with efficient movements and peaceful energy. No angry slamming of doors, no dramatic exits, no emotional displays, just calm, purposeful action. Bailey watched from inside the house where I was keeping her, sitting by the window, interested, alert, tail wagging slightly with curiosity, knowing something was happening but not understanding what, not understanding that he was leaving, not understanding that she was about to make a choice that would determine where she lived and who she lived with. I kept her inside deliberately, didn't let her out early, didn't want to influence the choice before the official moment, didn't want him to accuse me of coercing her or calling her before the test began. Wanted this to be as fair as possible, even though every cell in my body wanted to stack the deck in my favor. When he finished packing, when the car was loaded and ready, when there was nothing left to do but execute the test, He came to the front door, stood on the porch, looked at me through the screen door, and I could see him clearly, even though there was physical barrier between us. Could see his face, his expression, his eyes, and there was no anger there, no sadness, no emotion I could read or understand or use to predict what he was thinking or feeling. Just that same measured, calm expression he always has. That face I've never been able to read. That emotional neutrality I've always interpreted as distance, but am starting to suspect is actually just calm. "Ready?" he asked. His voice was even, steady, like he was asking if I was ready for dinner or ready to watch a movie. Like this was a normal question about a normal event. Like he wasn't asking if I was ready to let our dog choose between us. Like this wasn't one of the most significant moments of our relationship. "This is crazy. You know that, right? This is the most ridiculous thing you've ever done. Using our dog to prove a point about emotional intelligence. Making her choose between her two humans. This is insane." I was still defensive, still trying to reframe this as him being unreasonable, still trying to make this about his behavior rather than mine. "You said Bailey has better emotional intelligence than I do. You said she's smarter than me emotionally. You used her as evidence that I'm emotionally deficient, so I'm letting her demonstrate her intelligence. I'm letting her use that emotional wisdom you credited her with to make a choice about who she wants to be with. If you're right about her being so emotionally smart, trust her judgment. Trust that she can sense who's the better emotional presence. Trust that she knows what she needs." He was turning my own words against me again, using my own logic, applying my own standards, showing me that if I truly believed Bailey had superior emotional intelligence, then her choice should be trusted, should be respected, should be seen as valid feedback about who actually demonstrates emotional intelligence through their actions rather than their words. He opened the door, wide, wider than necessary, so Bailey could see out clearly, could see the car, could see him standing there, could see the choice laid out in front of her, could make an informed decision about what she wanted. "Bailey," he said, not calling, not commanding, not using any particular tone or energy, just saying her name, just letting her know the door was open, just giving her the option, just inviting her to make a choice without pressure or coercion, just presenting the opportunity and trusting her to know what was right for her. Bailey stood up from where she'd been sitting by the window, stretched, that full-body dog stretch, then walked toward the door at her own pace, not running, not hesitating, just walking with purpose. Walked right past me where I was standing frozen in the living room, didn't stop to check in with me, didn't look back at me for permission or guidance, just walked past like she'd already decided and was simply executing her decision. Reached the threshold of the door, that liminal space between inside and outside, between staying and leaving, between me and him. Paused there for just a moment, looked back at me, made eye contact, and I saw something in her face, in her dog face that I was probably anthropomorphizing, but couldn't help interpreting. Something like regret, but also certainty, like she wished this was different but knew what she needed, like she loved me but trusted him more, like she was sorry but resolute. Then she stepped outside, crossed that threshold from our home into the unknown, walked down the porch steps, crossed the yard to where his car was parked in the driveway, sat down next to the passenger door, looked up at him, tail wagging slowly, waiting for him to let her in, waiting for him to open the door, waiting for her choice to be acknowledged and accepted, choosing him, definitively, clearly, without hesitation once she'd made the decision, choosing his presence over mine, choosing his calm over my intensity, choosing his consistency over my unpredictability, choosing stability over excitement, choosing trust over treats, choosing the emotionally intelligent human over the emotionally enthusiastic one. My throat closed up, literally felt like my throat was closing. Couldn't breathe properly, couldn't swallow. My eyes burned with tears. I didn't want to cry but couldn't stop. My chest ached with that physical manifestation of emotional pain. That actual hurt that happens when something you love chooses something else. When someone you thought chose you reveals they'd rather be elsewhere. When you're rejected by a creature who can't lie or hide or pretend, who can only choose based on pure instinct and feeling and trust. Our dog just chose to leave with him, just chose his presence over mine after living with both of us for 4 years. Just validated everything he'd been saying and everything I'd been denying. Just proved his point better than any words could. Just demonstrated through action that emotional intelligence isn't about vocabulary or enthusiasm or intensity. It's about consistency and calm and trustworthiness. Just showed me that Bailey's emotional intelligence was sharp enough to recognize what I couldn't. That he's been the emotionally stable one all along, and I've been confusing my emotional volatility with emotional awareness. He opened the car door. Bailey jumped in, settled in the passenger seat, like she'd done it 1,000 times. Looked content, peaceful, like she'd made the right choice. He looked at me one more time. I told you, emotional intelligence isn't about intensity, it's about consistency. She chose stability over excitement, chose predictability over spontaneity, chose the calm, reliable presence over the unpredictable, emotional one. Maybe think about what that means. Then he got in the car, started the engine, and drove away. With our dog, leaving me standing in the doorway watching my relationship drive away, because I'd insisted our dog was more emotionally intelligent than my boyfriend, and he'd proved I was right, just not in the way I meant.